evening, it's Monday. When you see us, then know that we're coming here to break down the day's biggest news stories. Thank you so much for joining us for Monday's edition of the Root of Diamond Live. My name is Andrew Mwansa. The real-time newsroom.
Real-time newsroom. It's what happens when you're across several shows, isn't it? Yeah. But welcome to Diamond Live. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We give you highlights of what's happening through the day. What's been happening then? The United Party for National Development has been having it a bit rough after having lost the Petauke seat, but they won one in Pambashe. But I think that as one would expect, it most likely will be them to feel the pressure of losing, considering the fact that they are in government, but also especially because they were on a roll with winning these by-elections, and this is their first parliamentary loss of a by-election since they assumed government. And what's interesting is I was with one of them over the weekend, I think on Saturday, and he couldn't stop talking about how they were walloped. You know, every 5 minutes, I think I was with him for about an hour. Every 5 minutes, he was just saying, "Yeah, but
well, I mean, they say it's good for democracy. I think that
I agree.
If the UPND keeps winning all of the elections, then I think that it also doesn't give them ground to look at themselves. I mean, now there's internal divisions within the party, particularly in the eastern part of the country. But Petauke Menda was addressing the media, and he has dissolved all committee structures in the eastern part of the country. They say that they're reflecting over the loss in Petauke. But I really think that it's good for democracy. It's good.
What do you mean it's good for democracy?
Well, because then, if the UPND continue winning all of the elections, I mean, the opposition continue crying foul that the electoral environment is not good, it's not free and fair.
Well,
so the fact that the opposition, that this seat is going to the opposition, it gives, I think, more ground for the opposition to think and to believe that yes, indeed, the electoral environment is quite
Cheswa. Okay, well, for me,
I've been seeing this statement.
Okay, let me explain from my perspective why I think it is good for democracy. I don't think it's good for democracy just for the optics. I think that it is good for democracy because democracy demands an alternative voice. Parliament has got a responsibility to create laws. Now, if there's one thing that is evident is that for the larger part, political parties speak one language.
Yep.
When they are in any space, when they're in parliament, wherever they are, they speak one language. So when they speak one language, sometimes that language is not the people's language. Who presents the alternative voice that should ideally be the people's voice is the opposition. You don't want a parliament that has one color. You want a parliament that, as close as possible, can be divided in half, so that there should be someone to break the tie. If there, for example, is a need to create laws for this country, there must be laws supported by both the government and the opposition. It will not be easy for us to tell whether a law is supported by the government and the opposition if the opposition remain a diminishing minority. In that context, I think it is good for democracy. Another further point, and I will scratch on to what Cheswa also said, is that if there's one thing that is very difficult for people to do is to highlight on their own what they're doing wrong. So if there aren't many people in parliament to bring out some of the government's shortfalls, the government is not going to be checking itself. Somebody hence the principle and the theory behind checks and balances. Somebody must be checking the government and striking a balance, between being in government and what the reality is out there. So for Zambia to stay a democracy, it cannot be a one-party state. It needs diversity of opinions. And the diversity of these opinions is also strengthened by strong groupings, right? Like, for example, if you have a political party and you're the only one that is going in there as an opposition, your voice is not as strong. But if you belong to a grouping, and I know that we're going to say that the seat in Petauke does not belong to the Patriotic Front. Well, you can say that, but we all know that this is an alliance living under the umbrella of the Tonse Alliance, and they speak one voice. So that's why it is very important to have this palette of political parties in Parliament.
Well, I agree with the both of you to a larger extent, and I think for me, the UPND must take responsibility of this loss. I was looking at the pictures of those that were present in Petauke. This is inclusive of Simuuwe, the SG himself, Batuke Imenda. I saw local government minister Garing Kombo, among many other top-ranking UPND officials that went heavily to campaign in Petauke. And the first pictures that we saw from Petauke was when Batuke Menda arrived with the political advisor to the president, so many bicycles in hundreds, and Petauke Central was painted red. And
it doesn't look like the case.
But
it was an artificial red.
The minister emphasized there's no sticker, these bicycles are not red, they're not green.
People are wearing
for the people.
T-shirts, UPND T-shirts in hundreds. I think if you saw the newspapers and if you saw our news, you'd tell that definitely the UPND did spend much more money in Petauke than these other by-elections, and it's for obvious reasons, because I think Petauke was very important for them, and this decision that the SG has taken today is testament enough that the party needed, if there's a seat that they needed so much to win, is the Petauke Central seat. And when we posted as Diamond TV on our Facebook page advertising that we're going to be having Simuuwe, and the question we posed there was, who is to blame for the loss of the UPND in Petauke Central? One comment did strike me very much. It said, look, the UPND in 2021 got 1,100 votes in Petauke Central with its candidate. Now they've garnered over 11,000 votes. It means that they've won, actually. They've won by 10,000 more votes.
They've lost the seat.
They've lost the seat, but they've garnered support more than they did, last time. And for them to go ahead and dissolve this executive that has managed to help them garner these much more numbers is much more delusional to them. It's much more causes much more division within the party, because these are the people that have allowed you, to garner as many people that came to vote for the UPND candidate who lost, in this particular constituency. But we're going to be speaking to Simuuwe and Imbua, who is the 2011 UPND parliamentary losing candidate. He went against Gavin Lewin and lost, in that election. We're going to be speaking to them over this dissolution of the UPND structures, in Petauke Central. But another issue that has really touched me was the revelations that TIZ, raised in their survey. So they argue that government must reduce, CDF allocation, and this is for one particular reason. If you look at the amount of money that each and every constituency is using is less than half of the money that is being given to them. How is this possible? My argument comes in this form, colleagues, that each and every constituency in our country faces numerous challenges. Even though we gave my constituency, Munali constituency, 2 billion kwacha, I dare you that money is too little for us to fail to exhaust the money. But what has been happening with this CDF, many of these constituencies have been failing to exhaust, the monies, and they'll retire them. But also, TIZ argues that, look, much of these monies, instead of them going towards projects, these monies are going towards administration. It means paying people and paying these other things, as opposed to going, for the things that initially they are intended to go towards.
But don't you think that paying those people that are doing the work is part of spending this constituency development, because that work is not going to do itself?
So if Jonah, you want to erect a ground, okay, in your constituency, or you have so many projects in your constituency, must we pay you more than the money that has to go towards the project?
Yeah, but that's not happening, Andrew.
That's what TIZ is saying.
That's a very misleading statement to make.
They're going towards administration as opposed to projects.
No, but administration is part of the projects, and that's what I'm trying to point you at. Administration is part of those projects. It's it's a part of the budget. It's a part of what makes the train move. And I completely disagree that the money should be reduced, the allocation of the Constituency Development Fund. If there are problems, here we are talking about money going back. We're saying money is going back. So it's not an issue of overspending. It's an issue of underspending. So
why are we underspending?
And that's what I'm driving at. That's what the question should be, not the money. The money should not be the problem. The money is needed by the people. The money is insufficient, if anything. Let me finish. So what should be the course of action? The course of action should be for us to fix the bottlenecks. You and I know that the biggest problem that we've had with the Constituency Development Fund is the level of bureaucracy. It has been a chaotic setup altogether. So if we fix it, if we fix that challenge, and the money is going to be put to a good use. It's not the money that is the problem. It's us failing to spend the money.
And I think that's perhaps the point that TIZ is trying to bring to the fore. That look, we're failing to be responsible over these monies that have been given. We're increasing CDF annually, but we're not using these monies.
Well, it's been a tough 5 years for the UPND and because I think that when the president increased, I remember when the president increased when Parliament, whichever it's the UPND government anyway, increased CDF. I mean, there was always these issues around bottlenecks and John and I was talking about so many bureaucracies. I hope really this is something that can be fixed. But also the question should be how then. It shouldn't be about reducing the resources. But I understand Transparency International Zambia is also speaking from a point of how transparent can we be, with regards to administering these resources. Perhaps that's where they're coming from. But colleagues, Tasila Lungu is in the country. She was coming from the United States. She is being looked for. Should we say being looked for? But she's supposed to attend.
Summoned by the Drug Enforcement Commission.
Yeah,
things she owns.
She appears tomorrow. It's also been quite a tough run for the former First Family because she is being accused of being in possession with properties reasonably suspected to be process of crime. Not just her, Daliso, Chieso, also
Lungu as well, wife to Edgar Lungu.
Yeah. Well, let's see how that goes.
Look, Tasila Lungu had communicated to Parliament that she was going to be on leave, and for obvious reasons. All right. I don't know what the fuss was about.
Honestly, Andrew, you're speaking my mind.
From the law enforcement agencies that they're looking for her. Guys, further than that, after they issued a statement, she goes on her Facebook page that my phone is always on. I'll be coming back to Zambia before Parliament opens, as communicated to the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Honestly, I completely agree with you, Andrew. I think that, from the side of the law enforcement agency, I think that it is more of a procedural issue. I think it is more of a procedural issue that they have certain processes that they have to follow for everything, right? But I think that what I found really baffling was the appetite for misinformation, especially by political opponents. It was quite shocking to see people pretending that they don't know that she was expecting, to see people pretending that they don't know where she is, because she clearly said where she was.
She was, yes.
And I remember vividly one of these programs that we do, and somebody called in and started assertions that she's just within. She's just within, and the Speaker of the National Assembly should declare the seat vacant. There was a time when this was an actual thing.
And Jonah, people even started campaigning ahead of the by-elections in Chawama. I know of some named political party candidates who started mobilizing in Chawama with the hope that there's going to be a by-election in Chawama and Tasila's not going to come back.
It's one of those things, and I'm honestly glad that she's back here for two reasons. We've had way too many by-elections, and we've had way too many people being left hanging. Because I disagree with you, Andrew, doesn't mean I shouldn't respect the people that put you there. If you are a member of Parliament, there are people who believed you, And there are people who agree with you and they've put you on that pedestal. And we must respect those people.
Yeah.
But also that I don't think that I don't think that people's political differences must breed that extent of disinformation and misinformation. We must maintain a level of objectivity, because I've personally found it really sad, because what I've always known is that people, we're always happy for each other when somebody is having a child, isn't it?
Yeah.
When somebody is going through something as beautiful as bringing a life onto this earth, or a union. I always thought those are the moments that should not see politics, right? That we must overlook all our political differences and be happy for someone when they experience such an achievement in their life. The final part of why I'm happy she's back, I think that it is also in her best interest, in her family's best interest, that she clears her name with this issue and moves on with her life, as opposed to having this issue lingering around and people questioning whether or not she ran away.
Well, those are some of the issues that we're going to be talking about today, but part of the big issue that we're going to be looking at tonight is the dissolution of the Eastern Province district leadership, and I'm going to be speaking to Mark Simuuwe, who is a UPND consultant, as well as Mbua, who is a 2011 UPND parliamentary candidate. He stood against Tasila Lungu and lost in that election. Stick around as we speak to these two individuals. All right, thank you so much for still staying with us. Now, the UPND Secretary General Petauke has announced the immediate dissolution of parties Eastern Province, Petauke District and Petauke Constituency Committees. Speaking at the Anderson Kambela Mazoka House today, Mr. Imenda stated the affected lower structures would now report directly to the party secretariat. He explained that this decision aims to address the ongoing intra-party divisions that have plagued the ruling party in Eastern Province. Mr. Imenda emphasized that President Hakainde Hichilema is committed to fostering a united party that rises above internal conflicts and remains stronger than its predecessors. He further attributed the loss of the Petauke parliamentary by-election to the divisions within the committee in Petauke Central. UPND consultant Mark Simuuwe joins us tonight to discuss this and many more, but also we're also privileged to be joined in by Mr. Mbua, who is a UPND parliamentary candidate who stood in the election of 2011. They get to join us on tonight's edition of Diamond Live. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Diamond Live tonight.
Good evening.
Thank you. Obviously, the elephant in the room is how you keep blaming each other for the loss of the Petauke Central seat. And I would love for us to begin from there, consultant Mark Simuuwe. What would you attribute to as the reason for why the UPND lost in Petauke?
Well, of course, this is a conversation that will be properly sieved on an understanding that, of course, there are certain things that can be internally dealt with, and there are certain things that can be dealt with publicly. And carefully scrutinizing the situation there, need first of all to congratulate the people of Petauke for voting for the UPND in the manner they voted. You may wish to know that in 2021, UPND had about 1,500 votes. To have such a serious jump in a period of 3 years should not be taken for granted, especially that out of 8 wards there, 7 councillors are independent, 1 PF councillor. UPND has no councillor in that area. And coming from a third position to a neck-to-neck kind of affair gives us the justification on the amount of growth and the input that was realized during these campaigns, especially that in the areas that are seen to be winning areas, namely Nyika Ward, Ongorwe ward, as well as Chilibanyama. Nyika ward being more deciding with about 22,000 votes, Chilibanyama with about 8,000 votes, Ongorwe with about 6,000 to 7,000 votes. The rest of the constituencies with between 1,000 and 5,000, whose participation in the election had a meaningful contribution. So UPND managed to sweep around the rural Petauke there. But the CBD, where mostly JJ Banda was found, not that they had a message, because truthfully speaking, you will grapple with telling us what kind of message they were giving the people. Because what was more pronounced was, these people that are coming here, you would want to vote for them. They're the ones who have made JJ Banda to leave this country. The other one says, if you do this, you'll be participating in killing him, your own person. And you will never see him again.
How true is it, Mr. Simuuwe, that there was corruption in the adoption process of the candidate that you had as a UPND? Because others argue that the candidate which the Tonse Alliance used was actually a UPND member who you were supposed to adopt. But because officials like yourselves, Honorable Garin Kombo, the SG, Batuke Imenda and others, you decided to go for a candidate that the people didn't want, and that's the reason for why you lost. And others are attributing this to corruption.
I'm sure you remember that the Secretary General undertook a trip into Petauke before a candidate was nominated. And one of the key issues that came out publicly at a rally in that school ground there, I was there, many others were there. I think it was all dotted all over. The message from the Secretary General was that we have seen all these, there were about 7 or to 8, 9 candidates there. Then the message was, we have all these candidates around. It is you, the people of Petauke, to tell us who is popular amongst them. And the way the system has been designed in the UPND, we would get a candidate that is liked by the people after due diligence has been done.
Clearly the one that you chose not liked by the people.
No. I'll tell you something. You may wish to know that Tasila Lungu beat the old record that we had. From 1,500 to push votes to over 10,000 is not a joke. Okay? So, if another person has been picked and for whatever reason, they garner members from the opposition who commanded vast influence, first of all, on Petauke's political landscape, taking into consideration the legacy issue in which the PF supporting JJ got 32,000. The margin is too much. 32,000 against 1,500.
But yeah. don't you think that with the SG's statement from earlier on today is justifying or solidifying what was being said about allegations of corruption and so on? Because he has dissolved structures, committees from the Eastern Bloc, within the constituency, within the district, and he says it's because of the division in the party. And from what he said is these divisions started from as far back as 2021. So you're going into this by-election with divided structures in the Eastern Bloc there. So doesn't this solidify these accusations that there was something wrong in the adoption process?
So we need to separate what may be perceived as corruption and internal wrangles. Like I mentioned that I will be very careful in receiving the information so that we give the public what belongs to them and we leave what belongs to the party. Riding on my Secretary General's proposition with regard to clarifying some of the issues that the public needed to know, it is a notorious fact that there has been a split, which of course was triggered by the intra-party elections. You had, first of all, you have maybe Johabi commanding a certain line of support from the structures up to the ward. Then you have also, the current PS. The current PS is former provincial chairperson for UPND in Eastern Province, the PS Tole. He also had his own influence. Now, such kind of politics are cross-cutting. In some parts of the country, people healed immediately and reconciled. And how was it done? The UPND is methodical. We had to get those that were losing, mended the constitution, but we knew their contribution to the party was relevant by increasing the number of committee members at a structure level, for example, from 34 to 44, so that you have more trustees, you also have more vice presidents to accommodate many others that needed to participate in the internal politics. Now, in some cases, like I mentioned, people healed, reconciled, and worked together. The situation has been a bit different for Eastern Province, where the situation has continued over a period of time. And you know, when you are a divided home, you can never win a battle anywhere you go. So then what is the solution? There are only two solutions. With the UPND Constitution that provides for replacing individuals when there are casual vacancies, it means that replacements will have to be done administratively. And the Constitution also allows that where these appointments cannot be done administratively, and the elections and campaign committee see that having some elections at that level would cure the problem, then they will hold the elections. So these are basically some of the provisions that are found in the Constitution. Yeah.
We'll be able to highlight more on that, but the phone lines are open, and I'm told we have our first caller, who is chairman for elections in the UPND and is also minister responsible for local government, Honorable Gary Nkombo. Honorable Gary Nkombo, thank you so much for joining us on tonight's edition of Diamond Live.
Mr. Nkombo, good evening. Okay.
We have Honorable Gary Nkombo on the line.
Especially if calling from home, I know his network is a bit...
It's quite unstable.
For you, Mr. Mbuo, obviously this is a huge loss for the UPND, the by-election in Petauke. You needed this seat very much as a UPND. Don't you think this loss, for the side of your party, signals that the opposition is indeed strong? For an opposition to win a by-election, it's unprecedented.
Yeah, but I want to say this. I want to agree with what Max Simuuwe has just said, that when you come out in an election, anywhere, it could be in Lusaka, when you come out second, that is huge. It is not every time you would win an election.
Even despite the margin? For example, in 2021, if you look at the difference between the winner, Emmanuel JJ Banda, the second, Dora Silia, and indeed yourselves as the UPND, are you saying the margins don't matter as long as you're second?
No, they would matter, but look at it this way. The person who has won, the difference is just about 2,000 thereabout, isn't it? Yeah. So for us to get those 10,000 plus, it's huge. And I know Eastern Province, because I've followed the politics from the time we got independence to where we are now. Eastern Province is not a province you just go there and win.
Why do you think it's like that? And you're right, because if you look at our political history, the Eastern Province generally, it tends to resist when change gets to happen in government.
Just as you answer that, I think we have Honorable Gary Nkombo back on the line. Honorable Gary Nkombo, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Honorable Nkombo, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I hope you can hear me.
I'm struggling to hear you. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Very well, Mr. Nkombo. I hope you can hear us loud and clear.
Oh, no.
Mr. Nkombo?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead with your contribution tonight.
Yeah, well, I'd like the contribution that is being made by Mark. First of all, I think the important thing is to congratulate the winners of the Petauke by-election, which is in subject of discussion right now. And to say better luck to those of us who didn't make it. And the dynamics as how Mark is explaining them, Petauke has been not such a friendly place for us. And where we stand, we are believers that where someone is winning, somebody's got to lose. And unfortunately, we found ourselves in a situation where we didn't make it. But 2,000 number vote difference between NCP, that one, which is a part of the Alliance for Tonse. We can only congratulate them for now, and then we must look at the statistics. As Mark has said, in 2021, we got 1,500 votes, and that was paltry. And today we are at 11,000. In any given scenario, that is huge progression. And because we work around the first past the post kind of democratic dispensation, even if you won by one vote, you will then succeed to be a representative of the Legislative Assembly. So we are waiting tomorrow to meet with this gentleman who won, Mr. I think they call him Jehovah Jireh. He's coming to Parliament. He was the face of the NCP and also by extension the Tonse Alliance. That's fine. We have our candidate, Mr. Tasila Lungu, who we have consulted and said we're going to do it next time. And believe it or not, we will do it next time. Because at this point in time, democracy actually won. So, yes, if you want to ask me about the dissolution of the organs, the provincial organ, we are all under one accord as a political party, the UPND. We have external, extenuating issues and also internal issues. And the dissolution really must be regarded as an internal matter, which we must all accept that as a management, we take a certain direction and we collectively we are responsible for the decisions that we make, right or wrong. But for now, we think that the dissolution of the province, which does not amount to anything. Everybody's just put on ice, really. Basically, that's what they're put on ice in order for us to sit down and think and reflect on what could have been done better. Right. Those are our members.
Thanks a lot.
The people who are standing in and sitting in the committees of the province and the district committee of Petauke, the constituency committee of Petauke, are still our bona fide members. The dissolution does not amount to anything that must make anybody hit the roof. As it is a matter that is of an internal nature, and pretty much, I think that everybody must remain calm, including those that are involved in the dissolution, the ones who are directly affected. But we hold them dear. We have, however, an organization to run.
Thanks.
Which organization must, be respected in the manner that...
Thanks a lot, Honorable Nkombo, for that contribution on the program tonight. Just before Honorable Nkombo was participating, I guess Chimweka asked you a question around why you think the Eastern Province has been like that.
Eastern Province is a very difficult place to go. When you want to win, you will not get a win when there's people there. It's very difficult because I know, even when MMD came in, where MMD got few people who were resisting, to go into MMD was there were a lot of MPs in Eastern Province. So that's where I'm saying Eastern Province is a very difficult place because they normally have confidence in people they have worked with for some time. They will not just throw you out, you see. So that is why we are saying when getting 10,000 from what we got last time, it's not a joke.
So you're agreeing that the people there do not have as much confidence in the UPND yet?
No, all we need is to push so much.
Let me maybe chip in. First of all, how did UPND end up with such a jump from 1,500 to over 10,000? There are some messages that resonated especially with people in the rural areas. You know that Petauke is predominantly a farming area, such that whichever direction you cast your eyes on, you find some farming activities going on. There has been credit facilities under the Ministry of Agriculture, which border on SAFE, I'm sure you know it, where people get different assistance in terms of agro inputs, and then fertilizer in that area this time was delivered in good time. And then also some of the dividends that have been realized from CDF. Constituency Development Fund there has worked in a manner that people desired it to be, with a number of activities taking place around skills training, empowerment, grants for secondary school going pupils. Especially that in a rural setup such as that one, there are a number of boarding schools. So all those pupils that are in boarding schools and have challenges have been given some grants under CDF. In addition to that, you may wish to know that it is one area that contributes more to Zambia's breadbasket, especially in the area of maize. It was adversely affected by the aftermath or by the effects of the drought. It's one of the areas that government took into consideration among many other parts of the country that were affected in terms of social caste transfer, with emergency social caste transfer. So people appreciated this. Second,
how true is that those numbers you got were artificially induced? Because if you look at a report by CCMG, say they indicate that there was vote buying by the UPND, in Petauke Central. Also, the Electoral Commission says that you were disregarding, to follow the timetable that was scheduled, to all the political parties by the state. But they mentioned that you began to dish out money, in Fini. But for the avoidance of doubt, I want us to play this clip from Eastern Province. Director, if we have a report by Samuel Kwawe, to just put things into context. You can push in the clip by Samuel Kwawe when you're ready. But there are these reports that there was vote buying. This is an independent organization that says that there was vote buying in Petauke.
Yes. As a researcher, and again, from a legal standpoint, he that alleges must prove. If you assume that there was vote buying, which information I heard about, that there was tandamen from the PF or towards a camp where people were given 20 quarters before they do. The first thing that you need to do is to adduce evidence. After you've adduced evidence, you have to report to relevant institutions. And
it's not the first time. Even in Kawambwa, you have been accused of vote buying by TIZ, different institutions.
With suspects taken there. But TIZ was talking about UPND, they were also talking about the opposition, they're talking about a socialist party taking eggs and also to induce. But again, it's a matter of evidence. In the absence of evidence, it's difficult to get into the details. You are giving me an example of an institution. They are researchers just like me. Their research can be lopsided. It doesn't get it right at all times. So it's like having 30, or let me just say 10 students whom I'm supervising in it for a dissertation. Okay? They go to research around a similar area. It is very easy for me to tell where there are gaps in the research.
So we shouldn't rely on the credibility of an institution like TIZ?
It is very difficult because that's one institution, and you should also understand that in a research, that's why when you go to literature review, you are not going to review one study. Literature review is a concoction of various studies that are related. So you are dealing with a researcher, you push to him one single study, he will dismiss it. If you give me a dissertation to mark, you give me in the literature review one study, you have failed. That is why in the literature review there are a number of studies now.
You just mentioned that, for example, you heard around from the same institution issues of eggs being taken by this party, that party. But have you also come across these sentiments that the UPND is dishing out money, dishing out items as a way of trying to manipulate voters?
Now, the doctrine on hearsay is that it is not admissible until the otherwise is proved. Okay?
But you have heard that.
That's what I'm telling you.
But have you heard any of this from party members?
No, I've heard that Tonse is distributing this. That's what I'm saying. The principle on hearsay is that it is not admissible anywhere, not only in the courts of law, but also in any conversation. Because how do you substantiate
Are you
information?
rubbishing the report by CSM Gen
With 100% rubbishing. Because it's one single entity. If you ask other, you go to Gears, we go to all these, they also have their own reports.
So even with the hearsay, are you hearing this about your own party, the UPND?
Just like you would hear so many things relating to the opposition, that they were busy giving money and doing, until you have caught them. Members say, Impu pesa, he that alleges must prove. Now, we cannot be discussing hearsay.
As somebody who's been a part of these processes and part of a campaign like this, do you observe these things get to happen? Parties dishing out monies and so on, even from the UPND perspective, are these things that actually happen on the ground?
Yeah, let me put it this way. You see, as a ruling party, it's easy for people to believe that the ruling party was dishing out. But if it was dishing out, looking at it the other way around, we have the pace, isn't it? We could have gotten the seat. But why? Because, people were serious. It was not because of paying somebody.
But we heard these reports in Kaombo and you won that
Yes,
seat.
these
We heard them in
reports-
Pambasha and you got that seat.
These reports will always be there. Where there are people, there will always be such things. You will never take them out.
Let me give you another example.
That is for sure.
Another example, Mr. Mbua. You may recall that in 2021, money was flowing everywhere. Even if you remember Arabi, at the time of Arabi, they got even Chitenge materials. They went beyond the cadres. They were even dressing trees around.
Like you did in Petauke.
They were even dressing trees around.
Like you did in Petauke.
There was no such a thing, actually. There was limited regalia. So the point I'm trying to bring out is that, look, I've given you the parameters. How did we persuade the villagers? There are very specific projects which constituted the message. I've given you number 1, under CDF. Number 2, free education. Free education is a very critical component at village level. To tell a mother who is not on a salary, who has no income, that your child will not pay anything. If they have no uniform, they can attend school, they can attend the class in civilian. It's a big thing.
And in fact, on that note, you talk about projects in rural areas. One of the presidents of the Patriotic Front, Mr. Mao Sampa, is strongly of the view that as the UPND, you may celebrate these wins you get from these by-elections in rural areas, but he says your popularity is not the same in urban areas. And he even challenged, saying if you want, you can create a by-election in Chawama or Matero, and you will not be able to win that because you will not be able to prove to people in urban areas that you are doing the work that they expected you to be doing.
Now, that is a personal opinion.
Perhaps let me just...
Yeah. That is a personal opinion. And in the first place, in case you did not know, out of over 75 by-elections that have been held, UPND has won 67. So, he is free to give his own opinion. But the circumstances are that in all these by-elections that we're having, we are winning without violence. And for you to see the credibility of institutions, you can only see it from the elections that took place in Petauke.
The opposition deny.
People,
when you talk about free without violence, they deny that.
I'll give you an example. They deny because you saw what happened. They went and attacked the UPND camp. Okay? Blankets set ablaze, the windows of a particular area where they were camping shattered. Among issues, you saw bloodshed until they were reminded that not under the UPND administration, whoever is found, and apparently, if UPND had wanted, they could have hit back. But the leadership said, you are not going to be allowed to hit back. Go and speak to the people.
Yeah, I wanted to say, if you are taking it from that end, I'll ask you and give me an answer. Why have we won in the other province? Why have we won?
You know, you don't even need to go far, Mr. Mbua. We had elections. Copper Belt is the only urban province. You want to talk about urban province. Lusaka is dotted with so many rural areas. It's the only urban province you have in Zambia. It's Copper Belt. We won. And even in the rural Copper Belt, we had Mpongwe, we won. In Nalikwanda, previously held by the PF, we won. We have penetrated. You may be celebrating, but what you are not realizing is that we have entered Luapula. We have 2 parliamentary seats won by the UPND in Luapula. We have so far won 2 mayoral or council chairperson positions there, in addition to many local government by-elections in areas where PF councillors were recruited as teachers or health workers. And the villagers are deciding.
And on that, again, Mr. Simuuwe, are these by-elections even worth celebrating? Because, again, looking at our political history as a country, we've seen ruling parties scoop by-elections. The Patriotic Front was scooping by-elections, and you can remember this prior to 2021. But we saw the emphatic win that the UPND got, despite what was happening before that. And we know that when it comes to by-elections, usually marred by voter apathy, which was also observed in the just ended by-elections. If you look at the number of registered voters compared to those who actually participated, you can see the margins there. And voter apathy, based off political experience, goes in favor of a ruling party. And that's why others even thought it should have been easier for the UPND to win in Petauke Central. But is it worth celebrating, considering how we've seen patterns like this happen?
No, to the contrary. When the ruling party begins struggling to win a by-election, it is a serious indictment on their popularity. If you check, the moment we realized that PF was struggling to win elections, for them to win, a life needed to be lost. Like Kaoma, we knew there was a problem. Like a situation in Ron, where Kasongo died, we knew there was a problem. Like where HH, with bullets missed him in Sesheke, we knew they had a problem. Okay? But UPND is not struggling. It's not a matter of life and death. People have to go and vote peacefully on the voting day. Now, when you say by-elections are not in themselves an indication, then you're deceiving yourself, because the only way you can know what you are doing in a particular area is through the ballot. Even when you're conducting an opinion poll, the questions you're asking people are, whom would you vote for? Now, I want you to be very careful with Petauke. By going back to what I said, UPND was at 1,500 in 2021. Where has over 9,000 people come from? Is it true that in 2021 they did not believe in UPND? Now, they now believe in UPND. So you must be very careful. And then, borrowing your terms on the voter turnout, had the voter turnout hit 70, the situation would have been different. Perhaps the opposition could have lost. Because if you look at the ratios by ward, UPND won almost all the rural what?
You said that you've taken your party also in Luapula, having 2 members of parliament there in Pambashe and as well as in Kawambwa. But if you look at the election results in Pambashe that you got as a ruling party and the opposition got, the margin doesn't look to be so impressive.
Now, what should impress you is the fact that the one who was the first is now second. Okay? Now, those are traditionally believed stronghold for the opposition. Now, in an ideal situation, or conversely, if at a time PF was very strong and they were in government, if they held election in Monze, they would never win. So you need also to look at the dynamics of Petauke. First of all, ECO perceived to have been domiciled there. Then you have JJ Banda and the things that surround issues of sympathy in terms of messaging. There are a lot of factors there, other than also issues that relate to chiefdom, wrangles, and other issues. So the situation could be deeper than what you are seeing. But the consolation for the UPND is that if this election was held in a general election, UPND would outrightly win it. Because we have seen by what percentage we have moved from the third position with such a wide margin, 32,000, 1,500.
But it's so surprisingly that the same team that has made you get this number of votes is the same team that you've dismissed. You've dissolved a team that has helped you garner more than 10,000.
Only if you appreciate.
Where is the thinking in that, Mr. Simuuwe?
Only if you appreciated going there and see what was going on there. What you may not be aware of is that the whole structure of the PF resigned and joined the UPND. Tasila Lungu historically comes from the Patriotic Front. So there is a huge movement there that you are expecting. That is the answer now to the question of where have all these numbers come from. You saw members of parliament. That should show you something, the direction they are tilting into.
Are you using these members of parliament, or perhaps you will re-adopt them? Because I was speaking with the PF Vice President this morning at the Diamond Breakfast.
Which one?
And given Luminda. And he mentioned outrightly that those individuals, those 4 MPs from the Eastern that supported you as a UPND are going to be expelled from the party because they've technically crossed the line. And so were you using these individuals, or perhaps there are some promises you've made to them that you re-adopt them?
You see, the Constitution provides for freedom of association. So in enjoying your freedoms of association, there is no using of each other. You decide. And you can never be coerced to believe in a particular proposition politically. You have to consent.
Will you adopt
So, it is not something that can be said here because there are technicalities surrounding the adoption process. And the adoption process is not administered by Simuuwe. UPND is an organization. So, in so speaking, all MPs from the opposition are free to even contest on the UPND ticket. Reason: UPND before 2021 amended the constitution. That is why Kaboswe now is a member of parliament under the UPND from PF. That is why Mposha is a minister, because we have a constitution that is well aligned to the national constitution, which fits in the fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens, particularly freedom of association.
Would that be, maybe let's take it this way. Would that be acceptable to you, Mr. Simuuwe, if a UPND members of parliament campaign for the PF? Would that be acceptable?
It's not an issue of being acceptable or not. If they decided to join the Patriotic Front, it's their right. You may recall that it is not the first time this thing is happening. I remember when Honorable Kakoma left, if you go on social media, President HH said, go well. You are my friend, but you have made a decision. Go well. Capita left, the president said, go well. Kenisha's Banda left, the president said, go well. It's your constitutional right to do so. Now, the problem that we are having right now is that they have not crossed the floor. They have not resigned from the PF to join the UPND. They just had to make a decision during this particular period on which candidate they needed to do it.
As a politician, do you think that's acceptable?
It is acceptable in a quest for preserving the freedoms of association for citizens. Even today, Chimweka today can wake up and say, Mark, you know what? I want to work with you. Chimweka is welcome.
I would like to find this out from you, because you speak of the numbers that you've seen, the surge, for example, in Petauke Central, and you said you pretty much rubbish these assertions that by-elections are not an indication of popularity of a political party and so on. But let's also look at some of the factors that could have led to the increase. We've seen that when there's a by-election, there's a lot of focus there that comes through even from the government, from members of parliament, from the ruling party. You have people who go there to support a candidate there. And we saw this happen even in Petauke. We saw members of parliament, we would see chief government spokesperson present, green economy minister present, among others, in the constituency there. But the truth is that next year, when we're talking about a general election, it will be each one for himself, because each member of parliament will be busy in their own constituency and focusing on their constituency. So do you see this being the same going into a general election when everyone will be focused on their own constituencies and the national agenda?
And this is why I was saying, look, in a general election, it's a different ballgame. Because there is no centrality in terms of persuading the electorates. As you have indicated, you have people campaigning. Now, what is the message? This takes us now to issues. The best manifesto to the citizens are projects that have been realized. And they're able to tell the difference. They will tell you that when we had 1.6 million, we could not see this. We thought free education was a hoax, but it's a reality. We are shocked that we now have farmers being given empowerment outside the well-known FISIP through credit facilities. Previously, we only knew FISIP. Now we have many other facilities. Even under social cash transfer, we have the ordinary social cash transfer and emergency social cash transfer. That kind of message resonates with the people. It is not magic. They are able to tell where government has worked over and above.
To Mr. Simuuwe, Transparency International Zambia today called on government to reduce allocation to CDF because this is government has been doing everything possible that it increases CDF annually, but the people that are supposed to be implementing projects under CDF are not doing as what government wants to do. What would you say to TIZ that is urging government to reduce actually allocation to CDF?
No, I wouldn't. That is not a good idea. You see, when you don't see CDF being utilized the way it's supposed to, all you need to give is advice. You see, we don't work at the same pace. Are you aware? We don't work at the same pace. Other people need to be pushed. But other people, you just need to present the money. Then they will know where to take it. And they will quickly use it. And in certain areas, this CDF has worked wonders. Because where there were no, big blocks of, classrooms, today you see them physically. But you go into the other areas, whether that is your MP or that is your area, that is not important. You find that it's not working. So, but the issue, it is not just to sack him right there and then, or sack the people. No, you have to talk to them.
A survey by the chair that shows that the only provinces that have done pretty well in utilizing CDF is about Eastern Province, and I think Copperbelt, if I'm not mistaken. But the rest of the provinces, the uptake of CDF has been under 43%.
And this is based off the Auditor General's
And this is based off the Auditor General's report.
Let me chip in on that one. First of all, what we need to appreciate in terms of capacity building, which government under the local government have taken up, some of the reasons have already been identified as to why some of those activities seem to have some teething problems, especially in the first year this particular CDF was administered. And what is gratifying is that many constituencies, regardless of the percentages, now are beginning to master the art and slowly coming out of this. Let me give you an example of Northwestern Province. It may not be all the Northwestern Province towns doing fine, but you can see projects being undertaken. In some cases, it is about the complexities that surround the process of administration of this, and that's why there was an amendment to it. Now, after that, we are beginning to see on TV, including Diamond covers. You go to Solwezi, just last year, we find 400 youths graduating from skills training in heavy-duty repairs, and then the next thing you'll see, you go to Kalumbila. Sometimes it's lack of news. You go to Kalumbila, there are a number of projects that are being undertaken, including empowerment projects. I was also watching where in Kasempa, similar projects were being undertaken. Women are getting empowerment, youths getting empowerment, bridges being done. Sometimes it also depends on the type of projects that are being undertaken. Certain projects do not cost so much that when it comes to percentages will be low. I'll give you an example. If you went to Mwense or Luingu, they will tell you in this Luingu, the priority for us are bridges. Okay? Then the bridges, how much will they cost? In terms of utilization, there will be a variation. If they are going to do 3-4 bridges, and those bridges cost maybe less than 30% of CDF, that is what will speak to the facts. Not that it's not being utilized. It's being utilized, but what type of projects are being prioritized by WDCs? You may wish to know that what comes with devolution is development. There is no counter argument to that. You allow people to spend money in the manner they deem fit on projects that they prioritize themselves.
As you conclude, Mr. Simuuwe,
yes,
you are criticized. You criticize Given Lwinda for recognizing YME, as a freedom fighter, and I got this from Facebook. Yet you did not. You did fail to bring objectivity when the UPND and President Hakainde Hichilema referred to Chela Tukuta as a freedom fighter, despite his conviction of hate speech. Some conviction.
You are basically dealing with different issues here. If you recall the issue of Why Me, we're basically talking about glorifying lawlessness. Okay? The issue that you may refer to as maybe Chela Tukuta was actually beyond what you could see.
And you even promoted him.
No. There's no promotion because we were not in government then. Okay?
When you came in government?
He deserved it because at the end of the day, no one says he did not qualify for the job. He did qualify for the job. So I think we need to isolate these issues by looking at the background, okay, where these matters are coming from. No one glorified so vehemently, okay, deeds that could have been done, but we all know that the issue about Tukuta was mostly evolving around his association politically.
Not only that, he was convicted.
I'm saying mostly,
especially against a woman.
I said evolved mostly, not in part. Let me use another term, maybe so that you understand. It evolved mostly based on his association, not to the exclusion of the substantive matter that brought him into conflict with the law. Then the next point that I want to raise is that where this Lwinda is claiming that this person is a freedom fighter, what is there in freedom fighting when it comes to lawlessness?
The same question will be asked again regarding Chela Tukuta. This is a man who was convicted, and you have a man who's head of state now in opposition, who would
the president
would praise him.
It was not tied to his conviction. You beam it on TV. This one is purely tied to his conviction.
But they in the same vein, they are making reference to their freedoms of expression.
Did you see it?
And that is where the common ground is, because on both sides,
there is no
at that time,
ground.
Mr. Hichilema was making reference to issues of freedoms of expression and so on. And for YME, they're saying the same thing, that he's speaking on behalf of other people.
If you check the
Just
statement
a
again,
minute,
yes.
Just to chip in, when you say Chela Tukuta was not picked for just one thing he did, at that time Chela Tukuta had shown UPND that is with them. Now you cannot just pick one item to say that this is why he was picked. No, he had joined the UPND, and then people saw that this is material for us.
Well, because the argument here is that Mr. Simuuwe is slamming Given Lwinda for building support.
Here's the reason. The reason is that HH is not speaking directly to the conviction. There are many other factors, preceding factors, whereas this one is tied strictly to the conviction.
But the statement came after this was already facing the law.
You go and look at the words word by word. There is no direct reference to his conviction, okay, by HH.
But it comes around the same time that he's facing.
The two are different.
As a freedom fighter.
Yes, he fought for the freedom.
Of who?
So, unless you're telling me an absentee citizen,
I'm asking.
He spoke so much against abuse of human rights. He raised alarm on issues of restricted fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens, and even spoke for people like myself who were victims of arbitrary arrests.
Did it take time to condemn him for what he actually said
I spoke
towards
to him,
the minister at that time?
I spoke to him as my brother, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm telling you, that when HH spoke, it was not in direct reference to the conviction, but under the circumstances, here is a human being who goes straight to glorify lawlessness, and this is why I spoke like that. So if you go back to the statement by HH, he's not talking about it with reference to his conviction. He goes straight to deal with the matter as an isolated incident. So I'm not surprised when you talk about people like Luinda. That is what he's made of. And that is why there was too much violence under the Patriot Front. For them, even violent people that were picked and arrested are seen, that's why today, are seen as victims of, abuse of human rights.
You have to go now.
Yes, so the point is clear. In winding up, I'm saying, this is why you are hearing people who broke laws like Ason and so on are being taken as victims of tyranny. Because for them, law breaking is normal.
UPND Consultant.
Thank you.
Simuuwe. It's always a pleasure having you in our program. Mr. Mboa, UPND member as well as parliamentary candidate in 2011 for the UPND ticket. Thank you so much for making your debut appearance on Diamond Live.
Thank you.
To be on Diamond.
Right, so we've been discussing the dissolution of the Eastern Province Petauke District leadership by the UPND Secretary General, Honorable Petauke Menda. We've been looking at who technically is to blame for the loss of the ruling party in Petauke Central. Simuuwe has been our guest, as well as Mr. Mboa. On behalf of the entire production crew, thank you so much for watching. See you again on Wednesday for another exclusive edition of Diamond Live.